He just wants to come in and record some shit, but he's too much of a goon and he'll knock things down, so...
He also can't talk. He's a dog.
How dare you? How fucking dare you? Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Brotherhood Without Manners, a full spoiler reread podcast of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series. We are currently on a Game of Thrones. As always, I am Zach, and sitting here with me is my brother.
The host, Nate.
He thinks he's the host. He's a host. He doesn't understand that yet. Last week, if you joined us, we were reading Sansa 1.
No. Yeah? Were we? No, I think it was Ned 3. I think Ned comes after Sansa.
Son of a bitch. If you joined us last week, we were reading Ned 3. It was a pretty interesting chapter. Ned,
You started already with the
I fucking heard it. Fuck off. Put that in your fucking episode, dumbass recording, editing, Nate, you piece of shit. Fucking hate you.
I'm just going to leave all of this.
Good.
In, so
You're a fucking piece of shit pointing out my ums.
So, Martin news, did you see that he...
Oh, I was going to re-segue back into that to sort of make it a little calmer, but if you're leaving it all in...
Yeah, I plan on leaving all that in. Yeah, fuck off.
Animal.
I don't give a shit. Martin released a new headshot today.
Yes.
Yesterday. And he is looking fit.
Martin always looks fit.
That's all. Yeah, he just had that headshot. I am pulling up right now to see if he has anything on his Not a blog, because I didn't actually check before the episode started like I meant to. So, sue me. You know what I'm saying? What else did we get other new stuff this
I don't know how new it was, but I found out today that they're doing a 2-hour behind the scenes making of the last season of Game of Thrones, which will be cool. Sometime in May. They have the exact date. I don't remember the exact date, but I'm pretty excited about that because I'm interested in the making of with all the Game of Thrones. So
yeah, no, it looks super awesome. I think I want to say it was like History of Westeros, those guys over there that I saw share that or post about that, and I'm a big fan of theirs. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. It'll be pretty cool to see after. I don't think I'll watch it before season 8 airs.
Oh yeah, no.
But definitely afterwards.
It's coming out in May.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was.
Yeah, no, you weren't listening because you were looking at the Not a blog.
Well, I need to have my news. We're only accepting the newest news available, so I need to check it during the episode to ensure that it is the newest. Our dog Barrick is just losing his mind out there tonight.
I'm losing my mind in here tonight.
It's wild. It's wild.
He just wants to come in and record some shit, but he's too much of a goon and he'll knock things down. So
he also can't talk. He's a dog.
How dare you? How fucking dare you? Anyway.
So we mentioned last week that we are going to be making the Patreon episodes for the sample chapters.
True that.
And so we have been working on setting dates. We've got some polls going to see what other chapters.
Yeah, in case you haven't
after Mercy
checked our social medias, the first Patreon chapter we're going to be releasing is the Mercy Winds of Winter sample chapter. We both really enjoyed it when we read the sample chapters, and we figure everyone else would or may. I feel like there's a lot of discussion to be had from it. So if you're looking for some extra content that's something a little more current and sort of up to date, I know this is a long story and we've got a long way to go yet. So if you're looking for something a little more Dance Dragons related, maybe our Patreon is for you. So we'll be putting those up and getting that not nailed down soon.
I think that's patreon.com/withoutmanners. So check that out. Last week, as Zach had mentioned, we read Ned 3.
Yeah, and then you cut me off.
You were fucking
Ned 3 was a great chapter. It took place at the Lord Derry's... I just bumped the table. Damn
What
it.
else is
I can't
new?
get through a single goddamn episode. But yeah, they were stomped on the King's Road while a search for Arya was conducted, and it was successful. They found her after 4 days of searching. She was taken directly before the king, and Ned was not pleased about that. Upon his arrival, they were basically hosting a little trial for Arya and what happened with her and Joffrey and Sansa and Micah near the Trident or the Red Fort.
No, they were at the ford there, the Trident.
Okay.
Right where the route. Oh, well, I guess it's been 4 days, but yeah, they didn't move.
That's right. They only went a little bit further south to the Holdfast. And then through it all, Cersei ended up demanding that a direwolf pay the price, and the only one available was poor lady.
There will be water! And
All
a dead
right.
direwolf. Is basically what I imagine Cersei doing, pulling
Pretty much.
a Dolores Umbridge there. And so after slashing that dog's head off, Ned Stark...
Jesus. It was a lot more graceful and nice after spending some time with the dog and getting to know it a little bit and comforting it. Ned does the deed and demands its remains interred at Winterfell.
If you want to get all mushy about it. So then... Sandor Clegane comes riding through.
I can't fucking handle you. I don't care if people die, man, but it's a fucking direwolf. The direwolves are great.
Yeah.
Sandor Clegane comes back, and he's got what Ned at first thinks is Arya's wolf slung over his saddle, but it's revealed it's not the wolf. It's Micah, the butcher's boy. He couldn't run fast enough, and
Arya's
the
little
hound
pet.
rode him down. And that ended us with Ned. We
Open back up. In Game
opened
of
back up
Thrones.
with
Bran.
basically our first dream sequence of the series. Bran, obviously, I made the terrible joke at the end of the last episode that Bran's chapter would just be darkness. It'd be nothing in it because he's asleep. Well, he's actually having a dream, so it wasn't as clever as I thought. I'm actually going to change things up a little bit here, and because I could just read that, I mean, this chapter is so jam-packed with stuff and goodies and foreshadowing that I could read the whole thing to really get the effect. So if you're not rereading along with us, shame on you.
Yeah, so we're gonna do a little different this time, and Zach's gonna read a small part of
Just the opening
chapter
paragraph,
here.
because it really sets the tone for this. It seemed as though he had been falling for years. Fly, a voice whispered in the darkness. But Bran did not know how to fly, so all he could do was fall. Maester Luwin made a little boy of clay, baked him till he was hard and brittle, dressed him in Bran's clothes, and flung him off a roof. Bran remembered the way he shattered. But I never fall, he said, falling. That intro paragraph is there's so much to it. He feels like he's been falling since his fall, his literal fall.
Yeah, so I really do like that it says that he seemed as though he'd been falling for years, and I also liked how the paragraph ends. But I never fall, he said, falling.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so... Just the way that Martin puts those words together, he makes it sound so...
Well, Bran was so
Okay.
sure of himself. He remembers the clay boy that was thrown and he saw it shattered, and he said that straight to Luwin. It's something he said, and so it's that irony of he's been falling for years, and he had just said a little bit ago, I never fall, and he's thinking that as he's falling. He can barely see the ground through all the gray mists that swirl around him, but he can feel how fast he is traversing toward the ground.
Right, and even though he can't see it because of the mists, he knows what's below him.
Mm-hmm.
And he thinks that. He knows that even in a dream, you can't fall forever.
He thinks he would wake before he hit the ground, and then that little voice comes back and says, if you don't. Bran, I've had some pretty crazy dreams before, but this one's just wild. It was cold here in the darkness, it says. There's no sun, no stars, only the ground to smash him, the mists, and the voice.
So a lot of things right in that one, a lot of that immediately, and I don't know if it's just because of having read the series a few times now, but it says no sun and no stars.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that that's a common term that Dany uses for...
The Dothraki use, yes.
The Dothraki use.
My sun and stars, moon of my life, yeah, exactly.
And so it's... I don't know if it's actually saying anything towards that.
I think it could be literal that the language is similar. I think it might not be saying, Dany's going to lose Khal Drogo. I think it's just, there's very similar language throughout this world. Even the old gods or the three-eyed raven, they use similar terminology. I think it's just sort of connecting. But it says Bran wanted to cry, and the voice says, not cry, fly. And Bran looks to see where the voice is coming from, and he sees a crow that is spiraling down along with him just out of arm's reach. So Bran asks for help me. And the crow says, I'm trying. And then it asks, do you have any corn? There's this odd nonchalantness about this crow.
So that line there, I think that the crow technically could have been anything. That the crow or whoever is behind the crow, who we know is Brendan Rivers,
yes,
that he has taken on many other animals to whom it works for that person. I guess that I should say that I don't think that Bran is the first person that he's had contact with in this way and attempted to teach to fly. Beyond that, though, I think that he specifically took the crow, and that he actually is even saying slightly here that he's been watching Bran for a long time.
Yes.
By asking for that corn, it's almost like he's saying, I recognize you as the boy who's been giving these crows that I've been sitting watching you from forever. So, because he used to have those crows sitting there that would eat the corn, that Bran would get the corn.
Yeah.
Nobody knew that there were no friends up there. Nobody would go up there. Just the crows that remembered him. And so I feel like this crow is saying, I recognize you and the fact that you always brought us corn. I was there the whole time. I've always been watching you. And not just...
See, when I read this, my first thought went to Lord Commander Mormont's bird, crow.
So,
I also think for corn.
I think that fits also because I feel as though Brendan Rivers may
have eyes in the Night's Watch.
Be there as well.
That's sort of what I immediately thought of was later on. Obviously, hopefully you've reread and listened that this was a full spoiler reread podcast.
Otherwise,
we know
surprise, motherfucker,
that Mormont has a bird, and this bird always seems to say odd things at the odd moment and be just sort of in places that seem important, and it seems to have weight to its words. And so obviously there's been a lot of theories about someone possibly warging into this crow. So that's immediately what I thought of. But Bran, regardless, reaches into his pocket, and he pulls out a handful of kernels. I think sort of to his own surprise. He didn't really expect them to be there.
Right.
And he reached in and they just were. So the crow comes to his hand and begins to eat. And he asks it, are you really a crow? And it responds,
are you really falling?
It's
such a dream sequence phrase.
Definitely.
It's a, is any of this real? It's very Dumbledore.
It is. That's exactly what I was going to say. Of course it's taking place in your head, but why does that mean that it isn't real? Are you really falling, or is this just to wake you up and startle you awake? Bran's thinking that I will wake when I hit the ground, and the crow replies, you'll die when you hit the ground. That in a way, this isn't just a dream. This is some kind of life or death shit. Obviously, something in a dream might say that if it's a dream and it's your subconscious trying to freak you out or scare you. But there just seems to be a little more seriousness to this. You'll die when you hit the ground. So Bran starts to be able to make out the ground under him, and he begins to cry. And again, the raven says, I told you, the answer is in flying, not crying. To me, I'm taking that as the answer is in activity, not inactivity.
See,
you need to take charge and not mope and bitch.
It's very much what we saw 3 chapters ago with Catelyn 3, which it's this. This is in the way that Martin split that chapter into 2 parts. This is grieving crazy mom. This is taking charge. This is crying mom, and this is flying mom. So it's showing these two. Yes, you can sit here and mope around and pout and whine
fall
and
to
fall,
your death,
or you can get up and do something.
Yeah, you can try to change this
fly.
course. And Bran kind of gets mad and says, you have wings. It's probably a little easier said than done. And the crow says, maybe you do too. There are different kinds of wings. I think that's just sort of the metaphor it's meant to be.
I agree.
You can fly in many different ways.
Just like Dany flies on her silver, Tyrion flies away in his books.
Yeah.
All those different things. It's, absolutely. So then Bran looks down and sees his sickly body.
Mm-hmm.
And as he's looking, a face swam up at him, shining with light. Golden?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it said?
Light golden,
With
yeah.
light golden. And Bran screams.
Oh, shining with golden light, I would believe.
I mean, that's what I would imagine,
Yeah.
but for some reason I wrote light golden, so I don't know. I don't know. Fuck my notes. So that's when the crow tells Bran, not that. You do not need
the
that.
voice even, the face even says, the things I do for love. This is
Yes,
Jaime.
yes,
This is Jaime.
obviously.
And Bran screams. I think that this is...
Now, I don't think that he necessarily realizes it's Jaime.
That's what I think that him screaming is he hasn't come to terms, like, with what's happened to him. He
Right.
really still is kind of ignorant to the fact that he was shoved from the tower. And yeah, you're right. The crow then says, forget that. You don't need it now. Put it aside. Put it away.
Now, I think that the reason for that line is that, again, thinking that this is the three-eyed crow, that this is Brendan Rivers thinking it is the three-eyed crow, that he's experienced this before. He's done this before, and he knows that if you harp on what caused you to enter this state, you're going to focus on that.
It's baggage. You don't need that baggage.
And he needs you to see what you really, truly need to see before you start thinking about that menial bullshit. Because that has nothing to do with the course that you're now going to be on.
Yeah, it even says every flight begins with a fall.
Yeah, so that's the next thing I was
This is
gonna
the
mention.
catalyst for you, Bran. You needed to be pushed from the tower in order to be here, but you don't need the fear that comes with the tower and being pushed. You don't need sort of the politics of what all that means. The Jaime and Cersei bullshit isn't important for you anymore. That was it. You no longer play a role in the Jaime and Cersei incest thing. It's sort of what I think is being said between the lines.
Yeah.
The politics in the games being played in Westeros, you will no longer take part of. That was your catalyst. That was what got you here to begin you on a whole different journey. And actually that goes a little further on in the chapter. We get a little bit more on that. But
So then comes the big, really, in my opinion, the bulk of this chapter here. Because Bran then, he looks down and he sees
everything.
everything.
The whole wide world spread out before him like a tapestry.
So
He forgets to be afraid at this point. We know from earlier chapters that Bran was a fan of watching and sort of perching up high and taking things in. And he forgets to be afraid here because it's wonderful. This is
Because he's
amazing.
back at home. He went from, and even though it's higher than he's ever been, he's back where
Yes,
he's always
he
been the most
sees-
comfortable, climbing as high as he can to watch.
And first he sees home. He sees Winterfell. He sees Lewin looking out of a telescope and making some notes in a book. He sees Robb looking harder and stronger than ever before.
Practicing some swordsmanship.
He sees Hodor, the simple stable boy, which is super interesting that Hodor not super interesting.
That he
'cause we
gets a
know-
call out.
We know what Bran
Right,
is
right.
going to do and what sort of happens with Hodor and Bran. So,
But of all the people to pick out in Winterfell...
well, I think that's exactly why.
Absolutely.
He
And
has
so
a large part to play.
And it's funny because I never gave, my first time reading through... they
Who's
mentioned
Hodor? Like-
whatever, but he's constantly mentioned
Yeah,
in chapters.
absolutely.
He was mentioned in
Catelyn's,
Cat's chapter
yeah.
with the stables and acting queerly,
Acting different,
and
yeah.
now here he is again.
Which do you
specifically
think
being pointed
this is?
at?
Do you think Hodor maybe knows he's being watched? Like, do you think this is it? Like he's
I didn't
aware
think
of
about
sort
that,
of the
that
dream, and
maybe
Bran's
he
going to be
was-
going through some shit right now.
Especially if at this point he's got that memory of Bran blowing his mind, and so
From
now
the show,
too,
obviously, 'cause
yeah,
we don't
that's
have that
that's
in the
clearly
books,
show stuff. Granted, he does warg into Bran here in the books eventually.
Yes.
and
No, he works into Hodor, not.
he is Bran.
Yes.
isn't he?
He doesn't
Bran.
warg
I did
into
that.
Bran.
I did that last episode too. I called Rob Bran or something like that. But yeah, so he does eventually. But yeah, but I don't think it's outrageous to think that he's aware of something.
He's a recurring thing in
'Cause
Winterfell.
we see that it's not that you can't feel a gaze, because one of the next things he looks down on is the great weirwood tree
Yes.
in Winterfell. When it felt his gaze, it looked up at him and stared knowingly.
Yes, it looks right back at him, and it knows he's watching it. It lifts its gaze, lifts its gaze from the still waters of the heart pool, and looks back at Bran, and that I don't know what the fuck that means, but somebody is aware that these powers are awakening in Bran. Besides, I think, the three-eyed crow. Because I don't think here that the three-eyed crow is the old gods. I think it's sort of a different powers that be. The three-eyed crow is helping Bran awaken, but the heart tree is sort of doing its heart tree thing.
It's still looking.
And then it notices, hey, there's a new watcher watching type thing. But he moves on. He sees south. He sees a ship, and he sees his mother in the cabin looking at a blood-stained knife. We all know what that is, the knife that was attempted to be used on Bran.
We know from Catelyn 3 that this is the boat that her and Sir Roderick take through down to King's Landing.
Yeah.
And
he sees Sir Roderick as well. And ahead of them, he sees that a storm was gathering before them. A storm was gathering before them, but somehow they could not see it.
Now, technically speaking, when they're coming around Dragonstone,
that was really loud, technically.
That's okay. They do run into a small storm. There's a storm that catches them by surprise, a little one. And it launches Sir Roderick off the edge. And we'll go into that during that chapter, which is coming up here soon. But I don't think that's the storm that he is seeing. Clearly, it's foreshadowing that Catelyn's about to roll up into some shit, especially since I think one of the first people she runs into in King's Landing is her old little buddy Peter Baelish.
Exactly, yes. I think that I think the most important line is it's a storm they cannot see. When they're on the ship, they see that weather's bad and shit. This is metaphorical. They're heading into a shit storm that, like, exactly that. Littlefinger's first contact is, Catelyn's first contact is Littlefinger. Littlefinger already fucking kickstarted all of this. He's playing Catelyn. He knows that she is on her way up here, so it's all... They are heading... King's Landing is this shitstorm right now of people vying for different powers. He looks south, and he sees the waters of the Trident. He sees his father pleading with the king in the king's cold, hard face. He sees Sansa crying herself to sleep at night. And he sees Arya watching in silence and holding her secrets in her heart.
Yes.
What secrets?
It's... Fuck. I don't think she has the secrets. So...
Is this him looking at her future?
Well, so here's the thing. I was really waiting till the next group and little paragraph to go into this and get deep into it. I have different outlooks on every one of these sections, depending on whether we believe that Bran is only actually seeing the current present time, or if he's seeing futures. Because... I really don't know what kind of secrets at this point Arya may have. She has a needle, and but what else does she have at this point?
Exactly.
Eventually she's going to get heavy stuff. Sansa crying herself to sleep is going to be an unfortunately recurring theme for her because she just gets so brutalized throughout the entire series.
Ned pleading with the king is pretty reminiscent of all Ned does.
Because that's it. It doesn't say, and so we can take it to assume that, especially since we just finished the chapters there
where Lady is killed,
that we're meant to assume that. Now, if we take a step back and assume that he actually is seeing the future, Arya is going to have all of her faceless secrets, and then I'm really wanting to dive into the next part where we see that there's shadows all around them.
Yeah.
3 of them in particular. One, dark as ash, with a face terrifyingly hound-like, is however he phrased it. One is armored like the sun, golden and beautiful. And last one is a giant in armor, made of stone. When visor is lifted, there's nothing but black and blood.
He is looming over both of the other two.
Yes. Now, I want to say that the obvious things here would point to the Hound, obviously, with the Hound face. The next one I would imagine everyone takes to be Jaime Lannister. And the third, I could think of 2 people that many people might think, either being the Mountain or Sir Ilan Payne.
Yeah.
And so my thoughts on this, again, it's going to be different if this is supposed to be the present. That means it's going to be people that are actually there. The Mountain is not there physically. And so if he's seeing the present, I think that the 3 people he's seeing are not the ones that we assume. I think that the Hound is the Hound. He's seeing the Hound at the moment. I think that the stone armor one is Sir Ilan, because it's black and full of blood. He can't say anything. He's done countless murders. Yeah. He's very skilled as a swordsman. I think that the golden one is Sir Barristan Selmy.
Oh, really?
And there was a reason for it. Because it's the golden and beautiful, it's very contrasting. He could be a shadow at that point because he does help and serve, but he's also on the king's side. He's going to support the king, whoever that king is. So he doesn't really assist in them towards the Starks. Now, if Bran is looking into the future and seeing these people's futures, I think that the Hound is more likely to be the Sunlight one, the beautiful and golden one. But I still think that that's actually, if it's the future, it's Jaime. It's showing what he actually will become. Yeah. He is armored in this. He's this shadow at the moment, but he is armored that way. I think that the Hound is still the Hound. I feel like the giant stone looming one is actually the Giant of Braavos. The big stone statue outside of Braavos. It's the figure looming over Arya, showing that that's where she's heading, that Braavos is the way that her future is going to wind up.
Wow, you took a complete fucking 180 from where I expected that to go.
Suck it.
I was pretty similar in that I don't really buy that it's necessarily the Hound, the Mountain, and Jaime. My only real difference was that I was wondering if the golden and beautiful one wasn't Joffrey.
So Joffrey was my other thing
as a very sort of distance, non-judgmental look at these people. Right now, Joffrey, especially in Sansa's eyes, is seen as this golden, beautiful.
Yes, I definitely agree.
And to me, it would almost make sense. It's Joffrey, the Hound, and Sir Ilan, the three that kind of caused the most shit at the crossroads.
And thinking about the one that's looming over them both, Ilan put the fear of God, and she even stated that she was less scared of the Hound than of Sir Ilan. She just had this horrible experience with Joffrey. He's golden and beautiful and wonderful, but he's a terrible person. They're all three shadows, so I don't think that they're going to be good, influences on the Starks, and it says that they're surrounding them.
Shadows are servants of light, Sir Davos. Fuck you.
And so I definitely think that Sir Ilan is also that's my main ones were those. Jaime was the obvious
but side, I actually, in all honesty, I think that this is put in here sort of for this reason of like, who does this apply to? Is this a future prophecy foretelling of, the Mountain is going to have a confrontation between Jaime and the Hound? The three of them are in some weird connected triangle. Or is it just right now at the Trident, the big sort of energies that Bran are picking up are Sir Ilan, the king's headsman, the Hound, the king's bodyguard, and the king or the prince. I'm sorry, not the king yet, and the prince himself, this royal, beautiful golden. But moving on, This is my favorite part of the chapter coming up. It says, Bran sees clear across the narrow sea to the free cities in Vaes Dothrak and the fabled lands of the Jade Sea, and to Asshai by the shadow, where the dragons stirred beneath the sunrise. I almost am tempted to take this literally.
Do you think it's talking about Dany's dragons?
The only thing that gives me a little jigger in my knickers is it's Asshai by the shadow, yet dragons are stirring under the sunrise.
Right.
From what I know, I can't speak for you. Asshai by the shadow is completely covered in darkness. It's almost never light there at all. It is a terribly, terrifyingly terrifying dark place. And it gets worse the more you go into the Heart of Shadow and Stegai and all these terrifying places. So, the fact that there's a dragon stirring underneath the sunrise, to me, is saying that there's going to be some new light shined on these parts of the world that we don't really know a lot about, and maybe not even necessarily through Bran. A dragon,
so
Daenerys.
Mentioning it like this, it almost could make it sound to me like dragons stirred beneath the sunrise. Once the dragons rise, light will return again. It's like the dragons are the bearer of light. They're what's going to bring the sunrise with them because they're beneath it, and you need to have them.
Yeah, because light tends to be associated with like cleansing and purification, and same with fire. Fire cleanses and purifies to someone like Melisandre. So yeah, I think it's just that dragons will help bring light and knowledge back into this world, and for some reason that's also associated with Ashai by the shadow. So he finally looks north, and he sees the wall, and he sees his brother Jon Snow alone in a cold bed, his skin growing pale and hard as all memory of warmth left him.
So once again, we can apply this in both ways. The present, absolutely. He's
lonely and cold.
But the thing is, Jon's not at the wall yet.
Exactly.
Or at least as far as we know. But he's about to wake up right now, Bran is.
Yes.
And I feel like he gets word... It's been so long since I've read these beginning chapters. Jon gets word, like, as he arrives that a raven was sent in his brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
So Bran's awake after he gets there.
Yeah, Jon Snow is not at the wall yet, I believe.
It has to be a future. But are we talking it actually is him sleeping there at his first few weeks?
This is where...
Or is this the end of...
This is the evidence for people believing Jon Snow will be resurrected. This is one of the key pieces of evidence that there's one theory that Jon will be stored in one of the ice cells at the wall to sort of keep his body and preserve it until either Melisandre or the old god something comes in, or he wargs back in from Ghost, whatever one you happen to buy personally.
Yeah, because it says there that his skin is growing pale as the memory of all warmth fled.
The memory is what...
Yes, so a lot of Beric Dondarrion mentions that he starts losing parts of memories, things like that.
Parts of himself, yep.
But at the same time, you know, going to the wall, yeah, you know the North is cold. Everybody knows the North is cold. But the memory of warmth fleeing you forever, like... That's a bit excessive.
And he's also pale. His skin is pale.
And that's the big
and to me, that says death. He's not alive currently.
His skin is growing pale. So he's in the process of, that's it. Mm-hmm. He's done.
So Bran continues past the wall, past forests and rivers and the dead plains where nothing grew and nothing lived. North and north and north again he looks. And he gets to the curtain of light at the end of the world. And then beyond that curtain.
Now, see, that curtain of light, it really made me think immediately of that sunrise in Ashai.
Mm.
Just that, you know, that spot where
the cusp of knowledge,
the hot horizon truth meets the you know, that unattainable, reachable location.
Yeah, he continues forward and looks deep into the heart of winter. And then he cried out, afraid, and the heat of his tears burned on his cheek. He looks into the heart of winter. This is, so far, the only glimpse we've had, the only mention we've had of the heart of winter, and he is terrified. He cries out, afraid, and his tears are burning on his cheek. I think that the tears burning on his cheek is meant to sort of symbolize how cold it is.
I think that's got a lot
simple,
to do
warm
with,
tears are actually now burning your skin.
Just from looking at it.
From how cold it must be. And the crow says, now you know. Now you know why you must live. So, to me, that's saying Bran is directly going to contend whatever it was he saw.
Whatever he saw.
In the heart of winter.
And so we could sit here and speculate for weeks about what he saw up there. Whether it's a person, whether it's an event, whether it's a future, a past. You know, it could be a million different things or nothing at all. Just literally nothing.
Yeah.
That's the end. And it just, for this little tiny thing to set his whole path, to force, like, it just impacts him so strongly that it's an awakening.
It impacts me strongly. I immediately, and I know a lot of people know that Martin is very famous for kind of quoting, not quoting so much, but using bits of Lovecraftian things in his world. That's what this immediately screamed to me, is Bran is sort of getting a look at the mechanisms that guide things that be, the powers that be. I mean, he's literally looking at a tapestry of the world right now, and he goes even beyond that to the light, the curtain at the end of the world, which the heart of winter is beyond this curtain of light, at the end of the world. He is into some cosmic fucking shit right now. And what he sees at the heart of winter, to me, it has to be some sort of Cthulhu-like god being, entity of just pure fucking terror, malice, cold fear.
That's when the crow throws the Stark words at Bran. Now you know why you must live, because winter is coming.
Mm-hmm.
And Bran looks at the crow, and the crow had 3 eyes. And the third eye was full of a terrible knowledge, which plays right into what you were saying. These guys are looking into some cosmic level shit. He knows something that's just
definitely. This bird's trying to wake Bran up to it. And so Bran looks down and sees only a frozen wasteland underneath him. Jagged white-blue spires of ice that wailed up. I don't even know what the fuck I just... But there's large, jagged, blue-white spires of ice that come up to embrace him. And he sees the bones of 1,000 other dreamers impaled upon their points.
And so this is what I was talking about at the beginning of the episode here when I said that I don't think this is the Crow's first time doing this.
No.
I think that these are... And again, depending on how we want to look at it, it could... To me, I feel like it could very well be that's 1,000 other brands. That every one of them is a different brand whose path, and if you're an Avengers fan, you recently saw Doctor Strange look into the future, and he saw, 10
These are all the other possibilities.
All the different possibilities, and only one do they succeed. Those are all the other possibilities. Or it could also, they're not brand, just other green seers.
Personally, I think that these are the people that chose Cry over Fly. The Three-Eyed Raven tried to awaken others. If things went differently, we could have potentially seen Jojen on one of these spires, but Jojen woke up just like Bran did, and it's a do or die, a fly or die situation. And if you choose to fly, you don't end up impaled in this hellish wasteland of nothingness. And I'm like, to me, it's terrifying. I'm imagining it kills every essence of your being. This is some cosmic,
either
dream
you
state.
Fly and wake up. I suppose technically, if you, it could be metaphorical that those didn't actually.
Well,
die.
I was interested in the fact that it says that there's a bones of 1,000 other dreamers. We know, one in every 1,000 men is a warg. So I think it's just this cycle of finding different wargs for different times.
So this next thing almost brought a tear to my eye. Fuck, man, that was cool.
Bran hears himself ask, "Can a man be brave if he is afraid?" And then he hears his father reply, "That is the only time a man can be brave." Clearly, it's a significant moment in Bran's life, and that's sort of what gives him this last push. The ground is rushing up at him. He sees other people have died in a very similar fashion to the way he's about to die. He's got this crow urging him to fly.
I think it's funny that the last straw to push Bran onto the path of not being a Stark any longer are some of the most Stark words of advice he's ever received from the epitome of the Stark house. Just this person who, as we're led to believe, because who knows how honorable he actually is with his promises and his lies and his secrets.
And we reach the crux. The crow tells him, "Now, Bran, choose, fly or die. This is it. This is the moment." And it says, Bran spread his arms and flew. Unseen wings pull him upward, and the ground recedes below him while the sky opens up around him. It was better than climbing. It was better than anything.
Better than anything. Yeah, this is an uplifting moment. Just my heart starts racing.
Bran succeeds, he chooses to do something. Yeah, he absolutely has had enough. He's not going to be afraid because of his father. His father helped remind him of that. It's okay to be afraid, but you can still be brave. Try to fly. Why not try instead of just dying? And I think that's sort of what it is. And the crow flies up before him and begins pecking at his face.
And flapping his wings all up in
Bran's grill. Yeah.
He's like, "Yo, I'm trying to fly here, dog. You just taught me how to fly. Now you're trying
enjoy
to
it."
What the hell?
And Bran feels a sudden blinding pain right in the middle of his forehead. This symbolically, whatever you want. The crow is opening his third eye, is what this is meant to be taken.
Right, and so Bran asks, like, what are you doing? And as he's fighting this crow off, the gray mists return and start swirling, and what a cool image of just like this, I just picture the sound from Wizard of Oz, or like and then it's like it's back into and the crow is no longer a crow, it's a serving girl.
Yeah, a serving girl that he takes a minute and kind of, his brain sort of skips a beat. And he recognizes her. Yes, this is a servant girl from Winterfell, and it kind of takes him a minute, but he gets it. And then suddenly, Bran is back in Winterfell. He's laying in a cozy bed in a kind of chilly room, and he sees this serving girl drop a basin of water, which shatters on the floor. And to me, that was more important than it seemed. That's shattering the illusion. That's the shatter. Is here we go, like curtain up. This is the grand illusion has been shattered. Bran now knows the powers that be, and he's taken a peek behind this curtain.
So I only noticed this because I, for the podcast here, I have my episodes and everything all numbered and whatnot. It was Catelyn's third chapter, Catelyn 3, where she snapped out of that grieving, I'm going to sit here in self-pity. And chapter 3 for Bran now is when he's...
Well, he's still got some self-pity to go through when he realizes
absolutely.
About his legs.
I just think that it's kind of...
To me, that shattering of the basin of water was significant, sort of as this shattering of reality. Bran just went through a reality-shattering experience. He peeked behind the curtain and saw... a god, an entity, whatever, and it terrified him, and in some way he's connected to it. He has apparently been tasked to stop it. We're not too sure on what yet, but
yeah. And
so she runs out of the room shouting, "He's awake, he's awake, he's awake," which just tunes us into, oh shit, like this is happening IRL at Winterfell. Bran just woke up.
And so he starts checking his forehead because he's like,
it still burns.
Fuck, and he's still got the pain there, but besides the burning, there's no other evidence that any of that actually occurred.
Bran, you just woke as fuck, bro.
So he decides he wants to try to move, and he has some difficulty doing
Nothing happens. He tries to get out of bed, and nothing happens, and then suddenly a wolf jumps up on his legs, which he feels nothing of, but it's cold in the room, but the warmth that comes off of the wolf enfolds him like a hot bath. And he actually thinks to himself, oh, my pup. But then he goes, wait, I can't really call you a pup because you've gotten much bigger, much, much bigger. And so Robb comes crashing in shortly after, breathless after his sprint up the stairs, and he sees the wolf is licking Bran's hand. And Bran calmly looks up and says... his name is Summer.
Which, I didn't ever really think about it my first time. He just looked into the heart of winter.
Yes.
It makes me think that...
he felt what it is to never be cold, or never be warm again. He saw Jon having the warmth leaving him.
And so I'd never picked up on this wolf envelops him in warmth.
How much... I think that's like a literal thing. I think this wolf is radiating heat. Yes. It is a thing of goodness and warmth and light, and Bran immediately picks up on that. He was just in literally probably the coldest fucking place you can get
in existence
in this book. And so that warmth to him is comfort, it's light, it's goodness, and summer. What better thing to represent, sunshine and warmth and light? And
it's so funny because he was in the heart of winter. What did he need to warm himself? His soul. I don't think it was just the way that it enveloped him like a warm bath. It ran over him. This warmth, not just over the top of him physically. He was emotionally and spiritually cold. He just did this. Went through this life-altering event. And so he felt this warmth. It was almost like you mentioned. He's getting cleansed again. He's being opened back through the channels of dire wolf. And
because there's a lot of points of he felt nothing. He feels nothing. He just returned from this, and he's not having any feeling in his legs. He's not having any feelings sort of at all about anything. And it's not until he feels the warmth that he almost sort of comes out of it, and that's when Robb comes up and the wolf is showing affection to him, and he's affectionately letting the wolf, it's almost like Bran sort of comes back a changed person and then very quickly snaps into it as he relaxes and realizes, oh, I'm not in the heart of winter. I can still be warm, and I will get warm. And as long as I have summer here with me, I'll always be warm. And that it's almost like his talisman of protection against this.
Yeah.
I literally have summer fucking with me at all times.
Come at me, winter.
Fuck
like,
you,
what are
heart of
gonna
winter.
do,
I got summer chilling here. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Well, that was Bran's third chapter?
Bran 3.
Of A Game of Thrones.
What a chapter.
You got an inductee for this odd little dream sequence?
I never think about this shit, so no, but I can come up with one. Off the top of my head real quick, I'm gonna say who was pretty badass this chapter.
God, you suck. My inductee, I'm gonna give it to Jojen Reed, who wasn't in this chapter, but I have to believe that...
Maybe he had a chapter of his own like this?
I have to believe that Jojen Reed could have very well ended up impaled on a spike, and he chose to fly and not cry. So, Jojen, we need as many goddamn green seers to figure out what's going on as we can, so welcome to the Brotherhood, you little grandfather, you.
I am going to bring in Sir Rodrik. If nothing else, just because I feel bad that he's getting tossed around, getting seasick.
He didn't in this chapter yet.
But we see that he's going to, and so if I can get him out of that beforehand, we'll get him down here in the caves with us.
He's heading to a shitstorm that really isn't even related to him.
Yeah, he's just doing his duty, man. He's just helping out. So.
You said duty. Anyway, those are our thoughts on Bran 3. This chapter's phenomenal.
Outstanding chapter.
Like set up for Bran's story. So let us know what you guys think.
Yeah. Speaking of phenomenal and letting us know what you think, we've gotten a bunch of feedback this week, so make sure you guys keep sending that in. All of our socials. We have our Twitter at Manners Without. Instagram is at Brotherhood Without. We have our Facebook.com/Brotherhood Podcast and our Gmail withoutmannersbrotherhood@gmail.com. Now this week we did get one thing I'm very happy to bring up is a sweet iTunes review, and so we're gonna go ahead and read this out here at the end. So first of all, a huge thank you to Nirvana47. We're very thrilled that you're listening and enjoying it.
Yeah, we appreciate it so much,
man. What he had to say was, I wanted to reread the books before the show started the last season, but I was feeling lazy. I feel lazy.
Absolutely lazy. I get it.
My start of the rewatch is episode 1 of season 3 because Zach here mentioned that he's just past that episode. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just watch that one.
Lazy.
So, not sure how. Maybe Reddit. I am definitely on Reddit, so you most likely heard of me there. I stumbled on these guys, but they are funny as hell. Creating anything is difficult.
I'm funny as hell.
I carry you. You are piggybacking this
You're
whole
too
thing.
lazy to fucking
You got a
carry me.
point. So he said, creating anything is difficult, and these guys are killing it. I love the bickering and banter. It's not bickering, it's me just talking shit on
And
this
Nate being a
dumbass.
bitch, yeah.
And banter, as much as I like not having to read the chapters and them condensing its essence for me, would highly recommend the podcast. Good way to pass the time when stuck in traffic on the drive back home. That's my favorite time to listen to podcasts.
I'm so glad to be able to entertain someone in that shitty aspect of life of sitting in traffic. Fuck that.
Traffic.
And so if we can entertain and make your daily commute a little better, like, thank you. That means a lot to us. Like, we appreciate it. We appreciate you just listening and writing in
so
and
much
for the rate and review and all that fun stuff.
So yeah, I also had a couple guys on Reddit. I put up my bullshit Garrett is cold hands post.
Yeah, and we've gotten responses, which is
the main thing I'm glad I got was a lot of people just flat out disproving it. Which, like I said in the post, is that I disproved it a few minutes after I came up with the idea. But like, I was so excited when I first came up with that theory, and so now everybody on Reddit's given me more evidence as to how it's untrue, which is all I was really looking for, is what other things can I find to solidify that this is bullshit. And man, they did not disappoint. So I did see some people on there were recognizing the post from the podcast. Yes. So again, we really appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate the people that chatted in there with me, gave me some definitely needed evidence. But guys, we really like hearing from you. Send us emails, hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, whatever you guys want to do. Again, any
Go
iTunes
vote right now
review.
on our Facebook. We've got we mentioned that we are doing Mercy for a sample chapter first on our Patreon. We don't have the second one decided yet, but that is something you can vote on our Facebook. So you should go and fucking do that.
Facebook, and I have it on Twitter as well. So pick one of them, vote, let us know who you'd like to hear us break down the
For
chapter
Patreon,
for.
remember that is extra content. So if you feel like you really enjoy us and you'd like to help us, maybe get some new equipment. We are not using the best equipment by any means.
But that's okay.
But no, it's great. We're making do and we're not complaining by any means. But if you want to, support us,
something to support the show.
a little something to help. It will all go into technical.
It's all going back to you guys.
Back to you guys.
Everything
in this
that
podcast.
we get, we're gonna turn it into quality.
Because really,
content
we weren't looking to make money when we started this. We wanted to find a community where we could chat about our ideas about Game of Thrones and have a good time and meet some people in the podcasting community and in the Game of Thrones community and kind of mesh those both.
And you guys are not disappointing.
Not in the least.
We are loving all the back and forths between everybody.
So
a lot of the stuff.
Our next episode, we will be doing Catelyn 4. And that, I believe, will be a single episode on its own because that's a pretty lengthy chapter of Catelyn arriving at King's Landing and the journey there, and then arriving at King's Landing and meeting up with her childhood friend, Peter Baelish.
Mr. Baelish.
So I'm excited. Littlefinger's one of my favorite characters. I love the Machiavellian types.
So I love how different he is in the books, because I didn't dislike Peter Baelish in the show, but a lot of people have that image of him.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people forget how charismatic he truly is.
Yeah, no, people like Littlefinger.
Yeah, he's not this.
This isn't a Littlefinger discussion.
So.
We can't do that. We gotta save it for Catherine.
Yes, okay.
Anyway, guys, we will catch you on the flippity flop.
Peace.
Valor de Harris.